In 2013, a group of senior UPDF officers stormed Juba, the besieged capital of South Sudan, on December 15, 2013, to engage putschists who had staged what President Salva Kiir described as a creeping coup. Cracks began to emerge in the armor of SPLA, largely a patch-up of militias who fought the liberation war against Khartoum, as a political crisis spilled over into the barracks and ignited an ethnic tinderbox. Fighting broke out at Atla Bara barracks on the outskirts of Juba amongst the Presidential Guard Tiger Battalion officers, who were largely Dinka and Noor officers, after President Kiir ordered the commander of the Presidential Guard to disarm the Presidential Guards. Fighters loyal to the ousted Vice President Riek Machar claimed that the officer in charge of the stores rearmed Dinka officers, especially those from Awale and Warab states, the birthplace of Kiir. With fighting raging across Juba, Kiir abandoned his trademark Stetson hat for military fatigues during a news conference he addressed on national TV, where a dusk-to-dawn curfew was imposed. Standing alongside Kuol Manyang Juk, a historical member of the SPLA-SPLM Military High Command, and then Foreign Affairs Minister, Barnaba Marial Benjamin, Kiir said the attackers would be held to account.
The attackers fled, and your armed forces are pursuing them. I will not allow or tolerate such incidences once again in our new nation. I strongly condemn these criminal actions in the strongest terms possible.
Riek Machar, who had been ousted as vice president and fled his residence near the president's J1 residence on the outskirts of Juba, accused Kiir of staging the coup to mask his dictatorial tendencies. In the early days of the attack, Noor officers appeared to gain an upper hand as they captured large swathes of the city, including strategic locations like Juba Airport, before fighting spread to the garrison town of Bor, which is the spiritual cradle of the SPLA and the birthplace of the late SPLA leader John Garang, and later to the floodplains of the Nile River in Upper Nile and Unity states. A week after the conflict broke out, a multi-pronged UPDF force, buttressed by a commando unit from the Special Forces Command, stormed Juba and retook the airport after a fierce firefight, as a backup force of infantry and tanks began to gradually snake through Nimule, a border post through Nisitu, Juba, and later to Bor. The overall commander of Operation Kalongero at the treacherous war front, who is amongst those rewarded with a promotion across the decade, was Lieutenant General Kayanja Muhanga. He is currently the commander of the land forces and sits at the apex of the UPDF leadership. A veteran of trench warfare, Kayanja, by then a colonel, had previously escaped mortar shells as the commander of the Battle Group 8 in Somalia that captured al-Shabaab's bastions in Mogadishu, including Bakara Market, Mogadishu Stadium, Daynile, Mogadishu University, and Afgoy, located in southeastern Somalia, and Lower Shabelle in 2011. He was previously deployed in Acholi sub-region to fight LRA bands in the forested ravines of Pader district and across the gorges of Mountain Renzori, where he hunted ADF rebels. He was deputized by Brigadier Ham Kaija Atwoki, who is currently the police air wing commandant, who was a lieutenant colonel by the time of the deployment. He often flew the chopper from Juba to the war front in Bor, Jonglei State. The UPDF was ambushed at Pariak, located about 30 kilometers south of Bor, and later at Gemeza on the highway from Juba by Riyak fighters, where they lost 9 soldiers and 12 were wounded. During the firefight, a UPDF sergeant killed a brigadier general who was part of the rebel force. Bor was previously a scene of the heaviest fighting between the government troops and the White Army led by the late General Peter Gadet, a former militia boss who was among the first SPLA officers to renege and join the rebellion in 2013. When the UPDF entered Bor, they were met by a stench of death and the charred remains of the town burnt to ashes, which permeated across the shallow graves on the outskirts of the town. By December 15th, 2013, when fighting broke out, the army was led by General James Hothai, a NOAA officer who is a former head of SPLA commandos and surrogate to the deceased leader John Garang. He was later dropped amid suspicion and reappointed as Labour Minister in 2018. Kiir appointed General Paul Malong, a Dinka and former governor of northern Bahr el Ghazal, who had mobilized youths from his backyard in Awale State to fight Machar's rebels. On July 8, 2016, Machar survived a shootout at J1 Presidential Palace on the outskirts of the capital after his entire coterie of bodyguards were killed. In the aftermath, President Kiir accused Machar of entering the presidential palace with a concealed pistol, which he planned to use to kill him. Today, Malong has changed places with Machar. Malong is exiled in Nairobi and has called for the overthrow of Kiir, and Machar, who he relentlessly pursued from his home at the foot of Jebel Kujur mountain on the outskirts of the capital in July 2016. Machar returned from the jungles and is now first vice president. The 2013 conflict was a continuation of these ethnic pogroms, posited Ugandan scholar Professor Mahmoud Mamdani, a member of the African Union Commission of Inquiry on South Sudan. As part of the preparation, there was a general sprucing up of the capital, a street-sweeping operation to remove litter by Tiger Battalion a week before the killings. Thid Lau cleaning, as it was known, was a pretext for Kiir's loyalists to identify and demarcate areas in Juba that would be targeted when the massacres began. Mamdani says that Noor communities in Juba were motivated by a deep sense of grievance, revenge for the December massacres, and the promise of plunder. In December 2013, as word spread via cell phone that a slaughter of Noor civilians was going on in the capital, the Noor youth, 50,000 in all, and fresh from a run of campaigns against the Murle ethnicity in 2012, converged, first on Bentiu, which they ransacked, and then on Juba. Commenting about the promotions, Brigadier Felix Kulaije, the Defense Publication Information Officer, says promotion are based on period of service, among other considerations.
One, period of service. Two, the period I've spent on the rank. Three, courses you have attended. Four, discipline. Five, political clarity. Your ideological, the level of your ideological orientation. Of course, if you have been in the battlefront and you have done heroic performances, you are recognized with the medals. They are medals of exemplary performance. All right? You are being in combat notwithstanding, because there are those who have been in combat but have not been promoted because of that reason. However, it also contributes. If you have been a good performer on the field, it has a big contribution to your promotion.
Timothy Kaliejira, a journalist and researcher, weighs in on the conventional practice of promotions in armies across the world.
So these generals like the Muhangas and the late Paul Okech, those who, demonstrated themselves and proved themselves in battle. I mean, what else? If you can be promoted for just doing some academic college exams at a staff college, how about one who's tested on the battlefield, which is the ultimate test for a general?
Major General Bob Ogik, who's currently undertaking National Security and Strategy course at the Kenya National Defense College, was an operations officer at the rank of Lieutenant Colonel during the mission to shore up Kiir's troops. He previously served as the 2nd Infantry Division Commander, and Chief of Staff Land Forces. He previously served as the Director, Combat Operations in the Defense Ministry, Chief of Staff, Uganda Rapid Deployment Capability Center, Deputy Commandant, Senior Command and Staff, College Kimaka, Chief of Staff, African Union Support Mission in Somalia. Ogik joined the army in 1995 after completing the basic military training course from the School of Infantry in Jinja. 2 years later, he emerged as the best student in his class for his officer cadet course in Monduli, Tanzania in 1997. An experienced director of operations with a demonstrated expertise in intelligence analysis, operations management and planning, and international relations, Ogik has a Master's of Arts in Defense Studies from King's College London. Brigadier Paul Muhanguzi is amongst the officers who participated in the conflict under the infantry battalion at the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. He is the acting commander of the 2nd Division based at Makenke in Imbarara, and was previously deputy commander at the 2nd Division and served as a commanding officer of 35 Battalion and a Battle Group 15 deployed in Somalia in 2016. The overall intelligence officer for the mission fell under the responsibility of Lieutenant Colonel Abdul Rugumayu, who has been promoted to the rank of brigadier and is currently serving as the deputy head of the Chieftaincy of Military Intelligence, CMI. Brigadier Moses Paul Kwikiriza, who is currently the head of the Chieftaincy of Mubende Rehabilitation Center, was amongst the operation commanders based at Juba Airport at the rank of colonel. He previously served as the commander of the Mountain Division in western Uganda. Colonel Asaf Moitesi Nyakikuru, the brigade commander of the SFC Commando Unit, was amongst the key military strategists during the rescue mission. He was, at the time, a major in rank. He previously led an SFC Commando team on a special assignment in Somalia between 2012 and 2013. Colonel Fred K. Mwesije currently heads Operation Tokora, which is fighting criminality in Kampala metropolitan area. He was a field administrative officer during Operation Kalongero, at the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. He previously served as the commandant of the 1st Infantry Battalion in Somalia. Colonel Badru Lumumba, who is currently the commander of the 407 Infantry Brigade, based in Karamoja sub-region, was a major during the mission in Juba.